Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the March 6th meeting of the Lower Providence Township Board of Supervisors. If you could please all stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Jeannie, could you call the roll call, please?
Mrs. Ekman.
Here.
Mr. Sorgini.
Here.
Mr. Duffy.
Present.
Mr. Thomas.
Here.
Ms. Zimmerman.
Here. Okay, thank you. Prior to this evening's meeting, the board met in executive session and we discussed personnel and legal matters. First up on our agenda, we have the consent agenda. Do I have a motion for this evening to accept the consent agenda?
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions from the board? Any questions from the audience? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Okay, this is going to be a fairly quick meeting this evening. Item 2 on our agenda this evening, we have a presentation to Pandurang Barn of Troop 113 in recognition of his attainment of rank of Eagle Scout. Can you come forward? And we also have Lynn Burkholder from the library. You going to help us, Lynn? Please. So normally our Eagle Scouts are usually park and rec projects, but Lynn was lucky enough to get you to help out in the library, so we do appreciate it. Welcome to the meeting. Lynn, why don't you go ahead?
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I want to thank Pandurang, or Soham as we call him, for designing and building the lovely brochure holder that now hangs in our foyer. It was a pleasure to work with him. We had several meetings in the planning stages and the building stages, and he also put a nice frame around an existing bulletin board that we had. And so we appreciate him choosing the library to be the place for his Eagle Scout project.
Very nice.
So, thank you.
I have photos up there of your handiwork. So. Okay. So let me read the proclamation. Lower Providence Township, Montgomery County, Pennsylvania. Proclamation in honor of Eagle Scout recipient, Pandurang Barn. Whereas Lower Providence Township takes pride in its sense of community and citizen involvement, whereas the Eagle Scout is obligated to live his life with honor, loyalty, courage, cheerfulness, and service, and the Boy Scouts of America encourage Eagle Scout candidates to undertake worthy projects to improve their neighborhoods and community. And whereas Pandurang Barn, a member of Boy Scout Troop 113, Lafayette District, Cradle of Liberty Council, chose his Eagle Scout project completion of improvements to the foyer of the Lower Providence Community Library that included the construction of a new display board for informational materials and the framing of an existing display board. And whereas the progress made by Pandurang through the scouting ranks to achieve the prestigious Eagle Scout Award demonstrates his commitment to leadership and service. In recognition, therefore, the Board of Supervisors of Lower Providence Township extends our sincere congratulations to Pandurang Barn on his attainment of the rank of Eagle Scout and the highest rank in the Boy Scouts. Resolved and adopted the 6th day of March 2014. Here you are. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your project. So we always have a little tradition that you have to explain the process of your project, how you chose the library, and anything you learned, or anybody that helped you maybe along the way. Here you are.
Oh, okay. So I chose the library because ever since I moved here in
kindergarten, I've been going there to borrow books and going there to like study and read and stuff like that. So I wanted to give back to the community, and I thought of the library. And when I first went with Mrs. Burkholder, we discussed our project, a different project opportunities, and Mrs. Burkholder recommended the display board in the lobby, and I thought that would have been a great idea. So I got it approved by my troop and my council, and then I started fundraising for the project, and then I completed the project in September of last year, and then after all the paperwork was done, I got my Eagle Scout on January 28th of this year.
Excellent.
I haven't got it's like
Okay, sorry.
is like we're planning it for like the summer.
Okay. Big party.
Yeah.
All right. Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The board, you want to say? And thank you very much to the Barn family for your assistance and attending this evening. We appreciate. Okay. Next up on the agenda, we have new business, item 3A, discussion and consideration of amended final plan approval resolution for S-05-16, 2020 Summit Avenue. And John, you're going to help us with that?
As the board recalls, at the last meeting, the applicant appeared and asked for some additional waivers to the approved subdivision plan, which was approved back in '08 by resolution 0879. There was some discussion about the request. The board approved some of the modifications. You did not approve the tree planting requirement, which was part of that original final plan approval. So what this resolution will do is it sets forth, it's an amended final plan approval resolution, and I'll just briefly go through the paragraphs here. Paragraph 1 eliminates the requirement for an 8-foot paved walking trail, which was on the original approval. 2 modifies the plan approval to replace granite curbing with concrete curbing. 3 requires the submission of a conditional use amendment, and that's a new application because part of that original approval included a conditional use application and hearing and plan. Would be a very minor amendment, but technically they need to submit that. That would be a condition. They're also going to need to submit a revised record plan, again, a very minor amendment to what had already been approved. And number 5 is requirement that the applicant reimburse the township for its professional consultant fees incurred in this request. So assuming the board approves this, the next step for the applicant, who I don't believe is here, would be to submit a conditional use application subject to our requirements, and then assuming that approval, that'll come back to this board. Assuming that approval, then a revised record plan. I don't believe this was ever recorded, so.
No.
And then go through the normal final plan approval. They'll have to post development escrow, sign development agreement. So they've got a couple additional steps before they actually are ready to build or sell to somebody who's ready to build. I don't know what their plans are. So the resolution's before the board for approval.
Okay. Would anybody like to entertain a motion to accept this amended final plan approval for 2020 Summit Avenue?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second.
Okay, wait your turn. All right, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any questions by board members? Okay, motion. We have motion and a second. We have questions on the floor. Yes, Mr. Borai.
James on 485 Brenda Lane, resident for 40-some years, I think. Thank God for video, because I wasn't here at last meeting, and I have to, is this on? I watched the video of the meeting where the young lady stood up here and asked for subdivision of 8 lots on Summit Avenue. She was asking what she wanted done. She made a statement saying that the cost of housing was down in 2006, and that's the reason why she's been sitting on the property for, how many years is that, 8?
About.
Mm-hmm.
And people were not interested in the cost of the property and so on and so forth. John, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but can you change an ordinance with a resolution?
No.
I think this is what you're trying to do tonight, aren't you?
Why don't you explain that? What ordinance are we
All right, I'll be
changing?
more than happy to if you let me get into it. Another nice thing, it's nice to have the net, too. March 26, 2008, Mrs. Zimmerman, you'll probably remember this because you were on the Planning Commission then. S0516, 220 Summit Avenue. And it says, Mr. Joseph McGrory, Esquire, was present to represent the applicant, Mr. Pat Sparango, also present. Mr. McGrory noted that one waiver was previously granted during a conditional use hearing in 2006 for this plan. I wasn't able to find what the conditional use was in 2006 and what waiver, and what was granted. It says, Mr. Vibert remarked that the walking trail is shown on the plan. He expressed concern that once people start moving in, they will not want the walking trail to be installed behind their properties. Mr. Vibert stated that the walking trail was a condition for primary plan approval, and he wants it recorded on the plan. And it further goes on in saying, Mr. McGrory stated that the walking trail would be on the plan prior to recording. He noted that the only items that they have yet to discuss is the, get ready for this, $361,000 tree replacement fee, which the applicant intends to negotiate with the Board of Supervisors. I think at the last meeting on the TV, it said that you guys were going to settle, I mean, the board members, I heard this you guys Thursday night, and it stuck in my head. But you board members were ready to settle for $5,000. They offered $3,000 per lot as a tree replacement fee and are waiting a response from the township solicitor. I say, remember now, there was no mention of granite curbing on that. Then it says, Mr. Heiser from Smith Road commented his property adjoins a property subdivision. He'd like to see as much tree and brush as possible left on the property to create a buffer. He does not want to affect the Boy Scouts who use his property for camping. Ms. Zimmerman asked if they would install requested no parking signs, which we have in a cul-de-sac anyway. You can't park in a cul-de-sac. Mr. Enlick made a motion to recommend the Board of Supervisors grant the final plan approval for S0516. Mr. Satterwhite seconded the motion. Motion passed 9-0. And then when I wanted to get into the ordinance, I wanted to get into ordinance 565. And it was passed. None of you folks were on the board at that time. It was Mr. Danini, Mr. Sassu, Mrs. Altieri, Mr. Brown, and Mr. DiPaolo at that time. And it's ordinance amending Chapter 123 of the Code of Lower Providence Township, also known as the Subdivision of Land Development Ordinance. Now, from what I heard on TV, you folks are willing to give up the granite curbing and go with the concrete. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
It says in here, it says curbs inside the public right-of-way. All curbing be located within the public right-of-way adjacent to roads owned and maintained by Lower Providence Township shall be constructed on Belgian block. board members aren't aware of what Belgian block is, all they have to do is go up Grant, up behind the, what's that subdivision up there? Our solicitor lives up there.
I think we know what Belgian block is.
Okay.
Yeah. It's
But
a
those
block. It usually gets installed.
It's got 14 feet, 14
Right.
inches done in the
Right.
ground, it gets
And-
separated with concrete.
Right.
And it does a beautiful job, and it's there. I mean, when I grew up as a kid, all the streets in Pittsburgh was Belgian block.
Right.
And it was, you know, there for many, many years. Okay. So that.
But you know what the board did at the last meeting was they waived, the approval that the board discussed was waiving those requirements that are in the subdivision land development ordinance, which they're permitted to do.
Can you change an ordinance? Well, isn't relief from an ordinance done with a variance?
From a subdivision land development ordinance, the governing body can waive a saldo ordinance, not a zoning ordinance, a saldo ordinance. Zoning ordinance, you got to go to the zoning hearing board or get an amendment, but subdivision land development ordinance provisions are routinely waived, and that's really what the request was.
All right, thank you. Give me an education, thank you. The other question I have is the school district put in granite curbing, which you're all aware of. And that was done to save the taxpayers money, believe it or not. So they don't have to go back and replace the curbs anymore, but it was done with taxpayers' dollars. Now the applicant wants a waiver from granite, so in the future, the taxpayers will pay for the replacement curbs. So I don't know, what's a push-push, I don't know. That's all I have to say. Incidentally, she said business is bad. The Inquirer had an article in the paper yesterday saying Toll Brothers, his business is going up 44% this month.
Everybody but Toll Brothers is.
Well, it's business, it's
They never
buildings.
lose money.
It's business, it's buildings. But you know, to grant somebody something off the ordinances, John, is, I don't know. We'll see $300,000 homes back there with, I hope, Belgian block curbs. The walkway, forget the walkway. I mean, when you put a walkway up around the landfill, I don't see anybody using that. So it's a board's decision. I just wanted to. Another thing too, you know, we start, John, we start changing ordinances. Mr. Thomas, you'll know this from Thursday night. When you start changing ordinances, you're gonna have people come in. You know, we have a lot of subdivisions still open in this township. And once you start selling somebody, they don't have to put granite curbs in, they don't have to do this for trees and everything like that. You're gonna have the same thing other people have in other boards where people come in and say, why can't I have it done? The board before you let me do that. Something to think about. Thank you.
Okay, hearing any other questions from the audience? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to call for the vote. Oh, yes, Don.
I'm sorry, I have a question about open space and the walk. I understand that we're forgiving the requirement of the walk with this resolution around the back, and that was, I believe the walk was going to necessitate the creation of a homeowners association to maintain the liability for that property. Am I right, John?
There's an HOA proposed to, I believe, own the open space, and it would have been to maintain the walkway too.
Okay, and it says here that the applicant is going to offer the dedication of the open space. So I just want to find out where we're at with the homeowners association. Is there any reason to have one? Is it not part of the agreement?
Does the township want the open space, I guess, is a further decision. I mean, I don't think that decision's been made. An offer,
Well, it's in the resolution here. 3K, I think.
in the original resolution.
Yes.
Right, but the offer's just an offer, doesn't, still, till
I'm just trying
it
to get
gets
a handle.
accepted, it's not accepted.
I know we're doing away with any requirement to put the walk in. I'm just wondering what happens to that ground that was going to be shared. Is it now their own lots and there's no reason for them to have a shared liability for that space? Is that space going to be dedicated? Once they own that part of their lot, are they going to be able to clear it which is, some of them will be right up against Heiser's.
Right.
I just don't want to get us in trouble by going too far here.
Well, what'll happen next, assuming they do the conditional use application and the record plan, they then are going to have to do documents that identifies the ownership of the open space. My assumption is, and not being involved in this plan, is that the open space, but looking at some of the records, the open space, the HOA is going to continue to own and maintain. So they're going to have to submit the declaration, the homeowners association documents before we release any plans for recording. We're going to look at all that and make sure it's,
As well as the creation and treatment of that buffered area that's up against Heiser's property.
everything that's on, right, everything
all
that's on that
subject to
plan.
change. Okay.
And Mr. Woodrow, of course, hasn't had a chance to look at the plan at all,
Okay.
but there's going to be a revised record plan that's going to go to his office and make sure it's consistent with the original resolution as modified by this resolution. But my assumption is the township doesn't want that open space, just based on what I've seen in the record. So they're going to have to set up an HOA. They'll own it.
But part of the agreement was to make sure that buffer, that tree buffer that is on the plan now remains as a buffer. So-
Right.
And I want to make sure that we're either going to be able to revisit that issue, because we don't have to decide it now, if we can revisit it as conditional approval later.
Okay, but if that's a condition of the plan approval, that there's an existing, I guess, buffer, then they're going to have to restrict that. There'll be a deed for the open space.
Yeah.
So in that, if we can identify the buffer or any other natural features, we'll restrict that. That deed will go into the HOA. It won't go into it'll go into the HOA from the seller.
Right.
So there's a way to, then it becomes an enforcement issue
So we can
for the
deal with-
HOA.
We can deal with that down the road?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's-
absolutely.
That's all I wanted to make sure of. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Okay. Any other questions? Hearing none, I'm going to call for the vote. All those in favor, consent by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Okay, item 3B, discussion and consideration, oh, excuse me, it's getting late. Consideration of revisions to the Township Purchasing Manual. And Jerry, you're going to take that one, please?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairwoman. During the 2012 financial audit, one of the recommendations that were made by the auditing firm was that township staff update the purchasing policy manual to reflect the updated bid limits per second-class township code. So that's what you have in your packets. For your quick reference, I have highlighted the areas that have been revised. The key areas were the updated limits, of course, that are now effective January 1st, 2014, $19,100. That's the limit. Anything over $19,100 requires the complete formal bidding process. Any purchase or contract below $10,300 requires no formal bidding or quotations. Any purchase or contract between $10,300 and $19,100 requires 3 written or telephonic quotes. So those numbers are all dropped into this revised policy, but in addition, in the areas that are highlighted on pages 8, 12, 13, 14, and 15, it also references subsequent amendments so that we do not have to revisit this on a regular basis to update limits. It's just according to statute, as they are increased by the state. The other key area was on page 7, where we included a more comprehensive explanation of the competitive bidding process. That is nothing that has changed. It had been part of the second-class township code for some time. I can't tell you how long, but it was not included in our purchasing manual prior to this revision. The third and final key area was nothing that the auditors necessarily recommended, but while we were going through this process, Sue updated the internal process that we have in-house. When this purchasing policy manual was created a few years ago, we had a different staff. We had a dedicated purchasing analyst, so the purchasing was done in one area. Now it's back to department heads and different levels of authorization, and that's what Sue updated, and you'll see that on page 5, and the updated little flow chart there also. This policy was started to be reviewed by the former solicitor, Mike Sheridan, and it was something that wasn't completed by the time he ended his appointment. So our current solicitor, John Rice, has also reviewed this comprehensively and made his edits and revisions. I just wanted to mention that to you while he, of course, is here. So if the board is in agreement with this, I respectfully request that you adopt this updated purchasing policy manual, and then Sue and I will distribute it to the township staff so they're aware of the revisions. And I'm sorry, I respectfully forgot to mention that the township manager also reviewed this and provided his commentary and edits as needed.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
It was
I gave you the numbers.
Yeah, there was a comprehensive effort.
Okay, thank you, Jerry. Okay, at this time, I'm going to entertain a motion to accept those revisions to the Township Purchasing Manual.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second? Sorry, Don.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any questions from the board on that? Questions from the audience? Hearing none, we'll call for this vote. All those in favor consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Okay, item 4, announcements. We now have a secure medicine collection box located in the police department lobby, which is, of course, downstairs. Prescription and over-the-counter medications as well as pet medications can be dropped off Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And if you need more information, you can see the township website for important details. Bud, do you have anything to add to that? How did we come about that?
I guess the key thing that we should be concerned with is it was free. So through the graciousness of Montgomery County District Attorney's Office, the Pennsylvania District Attorneys Association, Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency, and the Pennsylvania Agency for Drug and Alcohol Programs, they combined their efforts and they came up with the funding. We submitted an application through the Montgomery County District Attorney's Office. Credit has to go to Detective Sergeant Terry Kennedy, who spearheaded the effort on our behalf. And we received the box today. Public Works installed it into the lobby, so it's secured, and it'll be available to the public. Dovetailing with that particular effort, we will be participating in the National Drug Take Back Day, along with students from our Cole Intermediate School on April 26th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. We'll make an announcement, and that'll be publicized, but we want to give people plenty of heads up. But we encourage folks to bring their prescription medications that are in their medicine cabinets into the lobby, drop it in the box, and we'll ensure that it's disposed of periodically by the Drug Enforcement Administration.
Thank you, Bud. I know those programs are very well attended and very successful, so thank you for your efforts. Okay, another event announcement. Representative Michael Verb will be having a document shredding event on Saturday, March 29th, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. in the parking lot of the IBEW, 3900 Ridge Pike in Collegeville. And this is sponsored by Representative Verb and the Lower Providence Township Police Department helping.
And if I just might add, we will be collecting any unused medications at that site also from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. We'll bring them back here and secure them for surrender to the DEA on April 26th.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have some meeting announcements. Park and Recreation Board will have their meeting on March 11th at 7 p.m. here at the Township Building. The Sewer Authority will have their meeting on March 12th at 7 p.m. in the Sewer Authority building. And the Library Board has their monthly meeting on March 17th at 7 p.m. Okay, item 5, comments and other business. I'll open that up to the board members first.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I have one comment to make tonight. Last week, on a very frigid night with high winds, a potentially disastrous fire took place in the Audubon Court Apartments here in the township. And I think I would be remiss if I didn't thank all of the wonderful organizations that responded that evening. The first reports from the night were that there were multiple victims who were potentially trapped by the fire, and it's really through the heroic efforts of many responding organizations that those victims were saved and a potential disaster was averted. So I'd like to thank all of our township personnel and volunteers who responded, our fire company, ambulance squad, and police department, and in a very special way also through the many benefits of mutual aid. I'd like to thank all of the other responding municipalities who came out that night. Bud, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the Black Rock Fire Department was actually the first fire company on scene, and that's really a credit to the great interaction of all the different organizations in our area. So thank you to everyone who responded that night.
Comments? Any other comments from board members?
Last Wednesday night, I attended the monthly meeting of the Planning Commission. Before the Planning Commission were two proposals by the Audubon Land Development, one for continued development of the Audubon Square Shopping Center. They're looking to add some more restaurants and a hotel back behind the Wawa and next to the Qdoba back there. Another proposal was made by Audubon Land Development to continue some construction and some development of the Shenandoah property. Both presentations were made, and the Planning Commission asked for some more information, including some traffic studies be concluded, and the Audubon Land Development will be coming back before the Planning Commission at a future meeting to provide the information requested by the Planning Commission.
Thank you, Patrick. I believe, Rich, maybe you could help us. I believe the zoning hearing board had their meeting and I didn't bring the minutes from that. Maybe the outcome of those items that were on the zoning hearing board meeting.
Yeah, they did have their meeting.
Excuse me, Rich, that was Car Vision.
Car Vision.
Yeah.
And then they had a request for an addition, i.e. garage on a residential structure. They approved that. And what was the other item?
That was the 5th Street movie lots.
5th Street lot, and they said no to that. Yes, because it was too small of a lot, and they were looking for side yard, front yard, rear yard exceptions or variances associated with all this.
Good memory.
Well, I
Very
had
good.
some help way back in
Yes.
the back room.
Thumbs up.
There was also an issue with public water up there.
Yes,
Yeah.
there was.
Okay. Any more comments from board members? Okay, I'll open it up to the audience.
Hi, I'm Scott Cosme from 3 Indian Head Road in Arcola.
Welcome, Scott.
I just want to know if the board had any updates on like the timeline of the bridge getting open or starting to be built, or any information on the sewer plan, whether there's been any movement, whether the plan's being approved to come to the Lower Providence side.
Two big hot issues.
Yeah, I know, sure.
So, you want to do it,
If there's any
Rich, or?
updates.
I can handle the Arcola route. You want to take the sewer one? How's
Oh, yeah,
that sound?
we on the middle interceptor,
They're probably a good at least 3 months away before they start to go to the individual municipalities and try to get us to update our FAR 37 plans at the very minimum associated with that. I know that they'll probably try to accelerate it, and then we'll see where it goes at that point whenever they approach us for an update to our 537 plan. They're still proceeding along the lines of putting it in Lower Providence. We, of course, have suggested alternatives to them. And the alternative that we've suggested to them is utilizing the existing right-of-way where the line is presently located on the Upper Providence side. And we've also taken a look at that in terms of the engineering estimates that they have provided. And we think that the engineering estimates that they have provided are not accurate. We don't think that they reflect the true cost associated with placing a line inside of the existing right-of-way. So we've briefed Mr. Rice, our new solicitor, about all the various legal issues that are associated with the middle interceptor. So we are prepared to move forward on the very basic issues associated with it.
Right.
And Colleen can tell you about our Cola Road Bridge, but I can too.
So we continue to have the meetings of various representatives from PennDOT, from the county, from Representative Michael Verb's office, the township, and Upper Providence Township. Everybody that's affected is very interested in this bridge and the detour that we've all been experiencing. So those meetings have been occurring every 2 weeks approximately. There is good news that we still think that the project will be put out to bid sometime, maybe June, we're told. It's been progressing very well in that everybody is putting it as their top priority and focusing on getting all the necessary permits, and now they're in right-of-way acquisition of the neighbors that are down there, and it sounds like everybody's fairly cooperative in working through that process. And so we just continue to plow through with Representative Verb's help and leadership. We're very confident that it's going to be much faster than originally estimated. So thank you for asking.
And every time we have an update, we're actually posting it on our webpage. So Mr. Roth has been excellent with doing that. So please refer to our Lower Providence Township webpage. And Denise, thank you.
Yes, Mr. Borai, another question?
Can I have a clarification on the vote? Was the vote for concrete curbs, $5,000 for trees, and no walking path?
No, the trees stays as is. There was no further waiver on the tree planting.
$318,000.
Whatever it was, I didn't,
I
didn't touch that.
I believe it's $5,000 per property
I thought that's
before
what
the
you said last
UNL.
meeting.
I believe that's what's in the agreement.
but that's whatever the,
Yeah,
whatever was.
we didn't change it.
Yeah.
They asked for a waiver of that, and we didn't change that. That's what they had negotiated before when they had their approval.
Yeah, but when they had the approval, that was $3,000 per lot.
No, that's what they asked for, and they negotiated it to $5,000, and that's what was written in the original approval. They came in most recently and asked to waive that. We did not waive that going forward.
So you waived the walking path and the granite curb.
Correct.
And the trees stay at $5,000 instead of $318,000
$5,000 per lot.
per lot. It's $40,000.
They already had that approval before.
If the 318 was changed, it was changed in '08, not,
I can't find that on any of the.
yeah, I don't know where you got that number. That's the first time I've heard that number.
It's in the planning commission meetings.
Well,
Minutes.
but if it's not in the resolution and on the final plan, it,
Do you want the paperwork on that? I'll give it to you.
sure.
Okay, I'll give it to you after the meeting.
Okay.
My other question is, you board members approved Rittenhouse Road for repaving. The last time Rittenhouse Road was repaved was 1996. It was classified a number 2 road. The reason why I said that, when I was going through my discards, I found the road report from 2000. That was my last year on the board. And it rated Rittenhouse Road as a number 2 road. Can I read this?
Sure.
It says, road is in good condition, minor cracking of roadway, minor maintenance is needed. And then, the reason why I'm going to ask you this is, I don't know if anybody travels Crawford Road, but the kids in the buses say, man, that's the nicest ride we ever had because, man, we bounce out of our seats. It is one heck of a road. There's potholes, and potholes. People were swerving out of one lane to get in the other lane. And, you know, the gentleman asked about the Arcola Bridge. Crawford Avenue is being used now very heavily, more so than what Rittenhouse Road is. And, excuse me,
Tom, we know, and we're already taking steps to address it.
I'm good.
Crawford and multiple other roads.
Good, I'll be quiet then.
Yep.
Thank you.
We got
You know
it.
how to shut me up, don't you?
No, we got it. We're on it.
That's why you're the principal. I won't stay after school, I'm sorry.
Okay, any other comments from the audience? All right, so hearing none, I'm going to call for the vote so we can adjourn this meeting.
Motion.
We have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor, consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Motion carried. Good night, everybody.